This is question number 6 for the OnShape Certification Associate Practice Exam. And in this exam, we are going to be building this multi-part part right here. So this is the multi-part modeling. And when we read through the instructions, it says open the document called the start document. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a copy of this. And then afterwards, it says activate tab Q6 in the instructions file. So we have this instructions file. Then it says in the question in the start document, use the provided post part and model the other parts needed to create the design in a single part studio. That's really important for this section. So we can go ahead and make a bunch of different parts. This would work. I did try this and it did work. And then you can assemble them together and you will actually get all the right answers. And so theoretically, that is possible to do. You might be able to get away with it and get all the right answers. But what the goal for this section is for us to model everything in one part studio and have it be kind of related to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and show us how to do that. So the first thing we are going to do is scroll down to this post file, and we're going to start here. So they gave us the post. We have an added diameter 6 hole through the center. So we are going to start a sketch. I start on the top view, hit N for normal, and then I just did a point at the origin. You could do a circle that was diameter 6 and extrude that. I'm going to do a point, and then I'm going to use the hole tool. And then we want to make sure we're on a simple hole. If you had counterbore, countersink, or anything selected, just change that to simple. Make sure it says through. If you had ANSI or ISO, you're going to hit custom, and we just want a 6mm hole, and go ahead and hit the check mark. Your hole should be going all the way through. You can verify that by rotating. Okay. Next up, we are going to make the mic holder. And if we go back up here, we will notice the mic holder, the blue, this light blue is the post. And then the mic holder is kind of this U shape. So it's just right on top of the post. It says the extension to it is the same size as the post. And then we see there's a 7 diameter hole that is above the 6 diameter hole. And it says it's offset and is concentric. So meaning they share the same center. Okay. So we are going to look down here. And basically we want to build this part. It looks like directly on top of the post. Okay. So I'm going to start with the extension, right? It's directly on top of the post. And I'm going to, you can actually just hit extrude. You don't even have to make a new sketch. And so I'm going to extrude this guy, and I'm going to also extrude this. Let's see if we can get that. Yeah, I guess we do need to make a sketch because it's not letting us hit the inner circle. So I'm going to go ahead and go here, make a sketch, hit normal, and we can just use the use tool. I just want to use all of it. And then I will hit the check mark, go back to my isometric view, and we will extrude both the circle. This time it lets me hit the circle. I want this to be, basically filled in. Okay, and this had a depth of 10. We will go ahead and do that. And actually, if we do this, there's a mistake I made right there. We want to make sure we're not adding material. If I add material, it's just going to add on to the post. This is a new part, so I want to hit new. Right, that's really important. So now that I have the post, I have this new part 2. I'm going to rename this. This is going to be my mic holder. So these are 2 separate parts. So I'm going to come back here. Right, that was from this 10. Okay, after I get that 10, we have this U-shape extension to actually hold the mic in place. And anytime I see this 3 typical, that usually alerts me that I might be wanting to do an offset. So I'm going to use this outer, this kind of bottom shape of the U, because that's where I see the radius 10. It's 60 millimeters apart, and it's 50 millimeters tall. So I'm going to go ahead and start a sketch on the front plane. The front looks like it's in the middle, so I just want to keep that in mind. And we are going to kind of make this U shape. Right now I don't see anything, so I'm going to hit the use tool on this top line, that top edge, so I can, when I make this line, I can kind of line myself up with that. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go up, and again, I want to just grab that point, drag over so that I make sure I'm even. Okay. I like to make sure that these are centered, so I'm going to use the point tool, and I'm going to find the center of that bottom line. and then I'm going to make the center of that bottom line vertical with my origin. That's going to line me up. Okay. Then this was from here to here was, I believe, 60. And then 50 for my height. And then we had a radius of 10, so we're going to use the fillet tool. And we're going to click both of those corners, and we had a radius of 10. That is fully defined. Everything turned black. We're in a good position. Then we're going to use the offset tool. I'm going to go ahead and select each one of these sections of that U shape. And I want to drag this in, and we're going to offset by 3. For whatever reason, when you use the offset tool, this top point a lot of times is not defined. So I'm going to go ahead and make it horizontal with the first point, and that fully defines it. And then I'm going to use the line tool to connect that into a closed loop. It turns gray, and I can finish my sketch. You always want to make sure that before you finish a sketch, all of those lines have turned blue from blue to black so that everything is fully defined. Then I'm going to go ahead and extrude this guy. And when we look back at the instructions, in the right view, we can see it has a depth of, or a thickness of 12. And since we started in the center, we're going to choose symmetric 12. And then that should line us up with the post. So now we have this piece. By the way, on that extrude, we do want to be on add, not on new, right? So that it's continuing to add on to our mic holder. All right, next up, we have kind of this fillet at the top, and we have the 2 holes up here, and then we have the hole going through the base. I'm going to start off with that hole going through the base. That's down in this detail view. It has a diameter of 7, and it's concentric with the other hole, which is nice because it's all just right through the center. So I don't really have to worry too much as long as I get it on the center. So I'm going to start a sketch here. Click normal. I'll make a point on the center just where the other one was. Hit the check mark. And then we will use the hole tool again. And this time, instead of 6, we're at 7. Okay. And then we can do a fillet of 6 on these corners right here. If you have something other than 6, just make sure you change it to 6. And it should look like that. And then we'll finish that guy. And then we want the hole going through up here. So I'm going to start a sketch on the outside part of this, hit N for normal. I'm going to make a point just somewhere in here, but I want to make sure on this point, I see this little orange dashed line, right? If I'm out here somewhere, it's not lined up centered. So I want to make sure that's centered. And then it shows me that the center of that circle is 44 above this kind of middle mark right there. So I'm going to dimension that from here to it's actually this middle mark right there as 44. Use the hole tool, and we are going to make sure that this is 6. Okay. One thing I do want to point out, and I'm going to double click on this hole right here. When we click on this hole, we want to make sure that this hole is only going through the mic holder, that it's not extending all the way through. And one thing to kind of watch out for, make sure you realize, is there's this button called Merge Scope. Merge Scope is telling me which part is the feature going for. So had both of these been clicked, then what would have happened is the hole would have gone all the way through. We don't want that. We want to make sure that it's only on the mic holder. That should happen automatically, but you do want to just be aware of that and kind of double check that. And if you get something like this where you're trying to make a hole and you get red and it's asking you for the merge scope, it's asking you, hey, which part are you trying to do this extrusion for? And so you can just click on the part. Okay. So now we have this guy finished. So we have our post finished, our mic holder finished. And before we move on, actually, I want to talk about the materials. I forgot to do that with the post. So we want to assign a material of nylon for the post and aluminum for the mic holder. That is in the instructions as well. It says to apply the part names and assign the materials. So we'll go ahead and do that. So on the post, I'm going to right click that, assign the material of nylon. And then for the mic holder, we will assign the material, I believe it was aluminum. And then we can move on to this top pin, which is going to have steel grade 8. And anytime we see a circular pattern like this and we can see the cross section, right, the kind of this shape here, we can do a revolve. That's probably the easiest way to do this. So that center line is going to be where we revolve about. So we're going to just basically draw in the right side. And we look at it, this pin is being attached so that the head of the pin is touching the top of that mic holder, and it's going right through the center. Okay, so that's the where we want to place it. Okay. So basically this point right here is going to be the top of the kind of right in here. So you don't have to do a section view, but a section view will help us to see this a little bit better. So I'm going to do a section view. I'm going to click on the front, and this is going to just kind of cut into the halfway mark, and then we can see everything a little bit better. I'm going to start a sketch on our front plane, hit N for normal. And so basically I want to use this use tool up here so that I can reference that top center. And so I'm going to make a construction line actually kind of through the center here. And it doesn't matter how long this is. I'm going to just click it and make this into a construction line. That way, that's that center marking that we see right here. And that's going to help me out with everything. So I'm going to start down at the bottom. I'm going to start at this corner right here. We're going to go over by 3, up by 25. And you know what? Actually, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I want to start right here because that's where the top is. So I'm going to start at that point right there. So I'm going to make a line from here over. And then I'm going to go from there. Let's see. Yeah, I can go from there. I can go down and then left. Let's do that. And I want to connect this back up to the top because that other piece was a construction line. I want to make sure that this becomes closed. So I'm going to dimension this as 3. Then this guy gets 25. And so this is basically just this rectangle right here. And then I want this extra section, so I'm going to go over by another 1.75. We're going to go up a little bit and then have a fillet. So I'm going to just go up the full 3 and then back across, and then I'll add the fillet in afterwards. So from here, this is the point. We're going to go over by 1.75. We'll go up by 3. And then we'll go across back to the construction line and back down. Okay. I am going to just drag these guys out just so I can see it a little bit better. So this is the top part. We just need that fillet of 3. So I think it was 2. If I had this old fillet of 10, it's giving me red because it won't fit. Just double click where it says 10 and make that into 2. And that should work. Everything is fully defined. It all turned black. I don't have this blue dot up there. That's just from the construction line. We don't really need to worry about that. So we will finish this sketch, and then we are going to revolve here and here. And again, now we're going to go to revolve axis. We want to revolve it around our construction line. You'd also revolve it just around the center. And again, I don't want to go to add. If I go to add, it's going to want to be adding on material. I want to go to new. We want a new part. And then we're going to hit the check mark. I'm going to turn off my section view. And that's going to allow us to then see the full part. Okay, and this was steel grade 8. We're going to rename this as top pin. And we will assign it a material of steel grade 8. Next up, we have the base, and this is our final piece. And this piece, if we go back up here, is at the bottom of our post. And we can see the hole in the base is offset from the post and is concentric. So we have a diameter of 7 right here. We don't really need to worry about this 0.50 offset. As long as we make the holes concentric, that'll work out for us. So we want this bottom piece to be there. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. We can make a section view. Kind of here, we can draw in this piece, and then we can revolve it. Sorry, not a section view. We can do a revolve from the cross section. Or we can actually just realize that this is a big 90 diameter circle that has had a 3 millimeter shell, right? and you can do it that way. That's kind of how I did it. So I went in here and I started a sketch on the bottom, and the diameter was 90 millimeters. So we want to make sure we start in the center. Went out by 90. And I actually just finished the sketch, and I extruded it by 10, going downwards. And again, we want a new material. Right? And so this was going to give me the 10 was right here. I do want to actually go back and double click on this. I want to make sure that I am doing all of this. There we go. That way it's full. Before I just had this part, we had that hole there. So we want to go back and we want to click on both faces. Let's see. There we go. That way it's totally solid in there. Okay. So there is our base. I'm going to right click this part 4, and we're going to rename this base. And then we want a shell. We're going to use the shell tool. It has a shell diameter of 3 millimeters. And that is from kind of this part right here where it says 3 typical. When we see these dashed lines, that's the material, right? And then this empty space is kind of open. So that's indicating that it was shelled on the bottom. And then we have a radius of 4, a fillet of 4 on the outside, and a fillet of 1 on the inside. So we'll go ahead and add those in. So fillet on the outside corner, top corner was 4 millimeters. And then on the inside, we're going to do another fillet that was 1 millimeter. All right, now we need the hole going through the middle. So I'm going to start a sketch on the bottom, and then we'll do a point right there in the center. And then we'll use our hole tool. And this one was 7 millimeters again, right? Yeah, 7. And it's going through just the, so on merge scope, I'm seeing actually top pin and base. I want to get rid of top pin. I just want this piece going through the base. Okay, so that's good right there. We're going to finish that sketch. And now we have that guy finished. Okay. Now, another way to do this would have been, and I'll show it over here because I did this as a revolve, is to use your sketch instead as this cross section. So to make it basically 10 millimeters from wherever you're going to extrude from, we go over by 45, right? That's half of 90. And what I did here actually is I'll kind of show it off to the side. Maybe you go like up by 10. Actually, just go over by 45. And you go down by 10. There we go. I just did that part first, then I did an offset of 3. And the reason I did the offset first is because the 2 radii were different, right? So that's important if you do it this way, is you need to do a radius for this one that is 4 millimeters. And then in here for this one that is 1 millimeter. And so something like this could happen if you do it this way. And then you'll just say, okay, this guy needs to be horizontal there, and this guy needs to be vertical here. And then you'll have your shape, and then you can revolve this, right? You put the line here, you put the line here, and then you would revolve this. So that's another way to go about it if you didn't really think about the shell tool that I did. Anyways, our final thing is to make this as a steel material. So we're going to right click this, assign its material as steel. And this one is just basic steel, so we want the one with nothing else. And then the question asked us, what is the mass of all of these parts? So I'm going to select all of the parts and then click on my display mass properties, and we get 223.966. So we come over here and 223.97, right? It says rounded 2 decimals, so 966 would round up to 97. All right, so that's it for this part. I will be doing another video with questions 7, 8, and 9, which are actually very, very fast once we have this built. And if you want to click over to that video, I'll put the link in the description.